Hi, my name is Crystal Deep and I'm the VP of Admissions for the 2014-2015 school year. Today we'll go through a step-by-step guide of what you should expect as a student interviewer. You're expected to show up at the College of Pharmacy Administration Building at 10 a.m. When you arrive at the Administration Building, please refer to Ms. Daniel for instructions. She'll give you a packet that looks like this, and you can take it to the conference room across the hall. Inside each yellow packet, you'll find several purple folders, each of which belongs to a different candidate. Now, inside each purple folder, you'll find the papers that were emailed to you, except the essay, which you will get later on.
When you open up an applicant's package for the first time, it's going to be overwhelming. There's a lot of information. The way I would approach it, the way I do approach it, if I'm in a rush and I don't have a lot of time to prepare myself, is I go to 3 places. I'll quick run in and take a look at where they're coming from, what program they're coming from, and get a sense for what their grades look like. So I just get a feeling in general about the kind of academic student that they are. I'm going to take a swing by and I'm going to look at their personal statement. I'm going to try and figure out why they're coming to pharmacy school, what motivates them. And then the third thing that I'm going to look at is how they spend their time when they're not in classes. It gives me something that I can ask a question about so I can get to know them and a little more personally, so I can pitch the right kinds of questions to them to learn more.
I look for things like self-motivated, self-starter, critical thinker, analytical. These are the adjectives that I generally look for, and I see if those are corroborated by their work experience or the places that they have volunteered.
I will look into the easy things, meaning to look at the numbers, the GPAs. So if the GPA is really low with a lot of D's and F's, I would question, because the question would be, is this person academically prepared for our program? And the second thing I would do is read their PharmCast essay, because that is their thoughts, their aspirations, and also why they pursue pharmacy, and I do want to know that. Also, the on-site writing is important because I want to see if they can perform under pressure. I don't need perfect writing, but it's more of, can they express themselves well?
When I'm reviewing an interview packet, I like to write my comments in the rubric in red ink. When I go in to interview a candidate, I like to write my comments in a different color ink, such as blue ink or black ink. This way, after the interview, I get to compare the comments that I had about the candidate before the interview and after the interview. And this allows me to see whether my comments correlate with each other, and it also gives me a better understanding of the candidate as a whole.
One of the great ways to get prepared is, while you go through the folder, their file beforehand, is to write some notes down for yourself, notes that you're going to have access to in the interview. So I do this for every interviewee. I write like their university, maybe their GPA, and just some of the key positions they've had at times. At the same time, while I prepare, I do start to fill out the evaluation sheet with some of the things that I find in the file. School record, how strong their academic background is, what their letters of recommendation were like. But for the actual interview, I don't use this very much. Sometimes I do, some other people do, I notice. But I usually keep all my, in the interview, this notebook ready, and it keeps and I write new things during the interview, things that I've noticed, and their answers to the questions. I try to jot down what the actual question was and how they answered it. And this has been my key book, and it goes back many years now that I have all the past interviews in here. And it's my own personal record of what happened in the interviews.
The interview can take place in one of 2 places. The first place is the COP Administration Building in room 119. The second location will be in the Comm Faculty Building in room 122. Now let's hear from some faculty and students regarding the interview.
I think it's important to realize that not everybody is going to present you with a perfect application. In fact, rarely are you going to see perfection. Everybody's trip through life is very different, and so you need to keep an eye open to all the different things that are happening in that individual's life that has brought them to this moment here. And have they truly arrived at the idea that pharmacy education is right for them?
One other factor to keep in mind is that the quality of the groups varies, and sometimes you might have nobody in the group looks like you want to accept them, and that's okay. You can reject everybody, and vice versa. Sometimes everybody really looks good and you can accept them all. So don't think that there is some kind of magic number that you have to accept, and don't try to shoot for an average or anything. Just go by your instincts, and there have been plenty of times when we've rejected everybody, and there have been so many times when I've accepted everybody.
Come up with some original questions, something kind of outside of the box so that the students will have to give more genuine answers. And my second suggestion would be to not be afraid to speak up and interject, to redirect the conversation, or to add on additional questions to the question that you previously asked.
In addition to verbal communication, think about the applicant's nonverbal communication. So how are they interacting with other applicants? Are they courteous? And then one thing you want to do is pay attention to what the applicant is doing while others are speaking. And lastly, think about posture. Is the applicant slouched, or are they sitting upright and being engaged in the conversation?
So some red flags in this area might include, one, an applicant who has pharmacy experience but is unable to articulate a response about what the profession of pharmacy is like, or any trends in the field. Another red flag would be an applicant who has not had direct pharmacy experience and in their application shows no effort to expand their knowledge of our profession. So I'd at least be looking for a pharmacist mentor or volunteer experience. You know, I understand that not everyone can get a paid work position, but at least some direct exposure to the profession is really important to know that the applicant understands what our profession's about and ultimately what they're getting themselves into.
So a good applicant to me is a person that exudes confidence when answering a question that's being asked. That to me gives me assurance that they'll do well in the future in the workforce and be able to take command when needed.
That they're passionate. I'm looking for somebody whose answers don't seem so well rehearsed. They're actually living that moment fully, and you can see it in the way they express themselves, the way they look around and seem to be engaged with the interviewers and the other people in the room.
A tip that I would have for new interviewers is to ask questions that are not considered standard questions. Because oftentimes a lot of the newer candidates now, they would have looked on a lot of forums and they would have pre-prepared and have, you know, a list of canned answers almost for a lot of the questions that are standard. And so a question that I like to ask is, teach me something. So I like this question because it puts them on the spot, so they have to think spontaneously to represent who they are. And then also it evaluates whether or not they choose a topic that's professional, evaluates their communication skills. So are they able to concisely and clearly explain something to another person that knows nothing about that topic? So that's a question that I like to ask.
I would say when you are interviewing a student to see if you would want that person in your class. There's a lot of different types of pharmacy students out there, leaders, people who are committed to service, people who are great tutors. And through your questions and your observations, see if that's the one that you think would fit in Toro's program.
So now that your interview is done, it's time to make your final decision. It can take anyone up to 1 hour per candidate, so anticipate staying on campus for about 3 to 4 hours. Look at the big picture. Remember, you are determining their future, so be fair and honest. I want to take this time to thank you guys for being a part of the interview team. We really appreciate your time and effort, but most importantly, we hope you have fun.